Welcome to another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. I'm here with my man G Witt.
Tighten up, baby. Tighten up.
And Mr. J. Lou, what's going on, fellas? Tighten up.
Tighten up, baby.
Tighten up.
It's nice to have a weekend free of stressful football.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, what a weekend to start the Super Wildcard Weekend. And let me say this first and foremost, I appreciate y'all, the thoughts and the prayers and what I feel 100% better from last week, if you can't tell, and back in the grind, man, once again. But like y'all said, fellas, a nice weekend to be able to sit back and watch a little football without having palpitations of your heart. so come on in and join us tonight as we're gonna look at potential breakdowns of the wild card. The divisional round matchup next weekend, either the Steelers or the Bengals, because guess what, fellas? You still got to line up and play. You can't give KC this game just yet. And we saw in the last week of the season, we don't need to go back and hash on that, but just ask the Colts. So that's all I got to say. And, Juju's been activated for tonight. So another weapon for Big Ben.
Tighten up, baby.
Tighten up. So Titans get a well-earned bye coming in this week, getting some rest, getting healthy, ready to roll coming up this next weekend. We saw clips, fellas, of the King ramping up his work in practice. Was very encouraging to see. And me and G Witt talked about it just a little bit, how he was running the pass right, slipped and fell, but got up. But, I thought it was good for him to be able to experience that slip and fall, G.
Yeah, absolutely, man, because what you want to do is get as close to game reps as you possibly can, even in a practice. So that's the one thing you wanted to see out of him, is that he slipped and fall, got back up with no issues or anything like that. That's what you wanted to see happen. And he came right back with the next drill with no hesitation or anything. So that's what you want to see.
Right. And so as they await the results of this weekend to see who would be the remaining lowest seeds, of course, Cincinnati won yesterday. They beat the Raiders in a controversial finish, 26-19. And you would think the Bengals would come here, but like I said just a minute ago, you have to line up and play. And don't give Kansas City this game that easy over Pittsburgh Steelers, because one thing we know, Tomlin's a hard-nosed coach, and he's going to make it tough on them to see who's going to be able to come here at Nissan Stadium when it's all said and done. So, J. Lou, let's take a look at this Bengals offense, man. You got Joe Burrow flying high, used to winning, man, and throwing at a 70% clip. Well, what do they look like on offense for those of us that don't know?
All right, man, this team is loaded. You would think that they probably a year away, but NFL and you get hot at the right time, who knows what's what. But Joe Burrow has a swag about him. You saw that at LSU, and as you just pointed out, he's a winner, knows how to win. They went out and drafted. They needed to shore up the offensive line, but they went out and gave him his college roommate, and Jamar Chase is doing nothing but setting rookie records. So this offense is explosive. You add Joe Mixon back there in the background, over 1,200-yard rusher for the season, and still dangerous. He can beat you running the ball and catching out of the backfield, and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd. So, I mean, this is a young, explosive team that don't know that they shouldn't be in the playoffs. Let's put it that way. Those are always the dangerous teams. I mean, right. They came out and, the Raiders gave them a hard-fought game, which you expected, and that energy. I'll tell you one thing, watching that game yesterday, and again, it's crazy to say it out loud that it's been 2 years since folks have had playoff games at home with crowds. But I remember last year the Titans had a home playoff game. It was maybe a third of the stadium, if that. Mm-hmm. And I think you saw yesterday, and even some today, with the exception of Dallas, because they don't really have a home field. You saw today how much the fans impact you and bring that energy. So you're hoping. That they come out, they're full of themselves, which they should be. I will say the one thing is still sticks his head out there that can happen is, I think that game, and I'm sure we'll get predictions later on, but between the trenches, offensive line and defensive line, they're suspect on both sides of the ball in the Bengals. And if our big boys can strap up and punch them in the mouth like I know that, I think we can have a decent game. But you're going to have to pressure Burrow. You get him anytime. The Raiders kept giving him man-to-man coverage, one-on-one, and not really blitzing, and he lit them up. So it's going to be a very good game if we see these Cincinnati Bengals next week.
So G, they've got a lot of young weapons, as Jay Lou just mentioned, man. Jamar Chase, just to mention their alpha receiver, 81 receptions for 1,455 yards, 18 per catch and 13 touchdowns. How do we slow that down, G? How do we slow that down?
Look, Look, Jay Lou, he hit the nail on the head, man. It's really going to be up to that. I'm going to say the front seven, man.
Yeah.
First of all, the one good thing we have in our favor, we know we're good at stopping the run.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is going to be getting to the pass. We know we can get there with 4, but like Jay Lou said, you got to account for Burrow's escapability.
Yes.
And that's where you run into the issue. You can get there with 4, but he has a tendency to escape the rush. And that's what you got to watch out for. So you may have to bring pressure. It's going to be important for people to stay in their lanes. To be honest, I mean, I thought the Raiders did a pretty decent job on Jamar Chase. I mean, he had some good catches. He got away with a few push-offs and everything. But they just kept him contained. And I thought that's what you really need to do, because you can see Joe Burrow likes to go to him. They were making efforts to go to him, which is what you're supposed to do with your playmakers. But I thought the Raiders did a fairly decent job of keeping him from having those explosive run after catches and things of that nature. So I thought that was big. But really, I thought about it and going into the playoffs, man, our weakness right now is definitely going to be our pass defense. We're going against these passing teams, man, and it's going to be rough on us. We can stop the run. We're going to have to be able to get to rush the passer, but we're going to have to be able to contain the passer. That's going to be the biggest issue right now. Rushing the passer we can do, but the question is, are we going to be able to contain them?
Right. And with a pair of 1,000-yard receivers, T. Higgins with 74 receptions, so 1,091 yards and 6 touchdowns. Tyler Boyd with 828. And so he spreads the ball around like y'all mentioned, but his favorite guy is Jamar Chase, which was brilliant by the Cincinnati front office to bring him in, somebody he was familiar with. After last year, and they struggled on offense a little bit, but they have not addressed that offensive line, fellas. And, Joe Burrow was sacked the most in the NFL this year with 51 sacks. And what better way to eat if you Big Jeff and company, with 43 sacks for the Titans this year, able to get after the quarterback with the front 4. I just hope that if Bowen is not having success with his front 4, that he's going to have to bring something else, right? He can't let him sit back there in the pocket because, like you said, Jay Lou, they like getting Jamar Chase the ball. You saw it last night. They were in jet sweep. They put him in the backfield some. And so he's one of those guys that whichever way they can do it, they're going to get him that football. 13th overall on offense for those guys, 7th passing, 23 rushing, and 7th in scoring. And so, with the Titans, you got the 6th scoring defense giving them 20.8 points a game, and Cincinnati's averaging 27. So something's going to have to give there, fellas. And but you like the odds, you like the matchups, especially up front with our front 4 and our front 7, as you mentioned, G Witt, against this young offensive line and this young offensive core. The line has struggled to protect Joe, but again, we've got to get that pressure on. Don't let them sit back there in the pocket. And so as we flip on the other side of the defense, fellas, how do we stack up with our defense going against the offense? So that was something we mentioned last week a little bit. I want to get more in depth into it. But this turnaround for this two-tone blue defense, 12th overall. And if you know anything about last year, they were 28th overall. So G Witt, man, tell us, man. Because look, all we kept saying last season was if we had a defense that could. And this year, we have a defense that can. Now, the passer numbers are kind of deceiving, in my opinion, because, a lot of teams couldn't run on it. So what they have to do, throw the ball. They threw the ball a lot, right? Because once we get control of the game and run our offense and chew the clock up, it takes away the possessions for the other team, right? And so, G-Man, what as we look at this defense, man, the passing, like I said, 25th, 2nd overall. And I just hope Bowen doesn't fall in love with the 4-man rush. Now, Christian Fulton, does he have a matchup advantage on Jamar Chase, being that they once had head-to-head matchups in practice, right, in college?
Look, that's going to be really, when you stop and think about it, that's going to be the key. Also, the slot receiver coverage is going to be key as well. Can Molden, cover the slot receiver? The thing you know about Cincinnati is that all 3 receiver positions are very good. They get open. Mm-hmm. So Molden, as you saw, got schooled by against Houston and gave up a lot. And granted, he's a smart football player. He knows how to make adjustments and everything. But he's definitely going to be one guy who's going to step up and play smart in the slot. Jack Rabbit Jenkins has been playing better, but we just don't know what you're going to get out of him. I'm sorry, he's a wild card as far as I'm concerned. But it's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, can we get pressure on Joe Burrow? Can we make him hesitate throwing the ball? Can we hold up these receivers? Are we going to play like San Francisco's playing today, the soft zone coverage, or are we going to play aggressive up on the line, slow down the offense, keep them from running free, especially with the tight ends and everything? So that's going to be interesting to see how we play, if we play Cincinnati. You know, like you said, I'm not discounting Pittsburgh as of yet, but I'm just waiting to see. Our defense is definitely going to step up. I mean, I'm gonna say this, Ed, and I'm gonna slightly disagree with you on the passing numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're really skewed, but I think we just give up a lot. It just bothers me a little bit. He just threw a pick. It just bothers me a little bit the way we give up passing yards, man. Sorry about that.
Jay Lou. So with the secondary as it is, Bayer playing all pro level, Hooker, who's going to be that one that's going to come up with that big play? Now, Fulton's going to have to match up, you would think, right? We saw him a little bit following a receiver around last week was Collins, I guess Nico Collins against the Texans. So do we see that this week going against Chase?
Yeah, I think, call me crazy, but I think we see a lot more man-to-man this week than we probably saw all year. Mm-hmm. And I think we see him following some. I think this is the week that I think the rookie, Elijah Molden's going to have to come up big. I think we're going to be protected on the outside. And I think you will see us roll some safety help. We know we will. You see some too high safety help on both of those outsides. So that shrinks the field and gets it the slot receiver and the tight ends. The one thing I think we had to see from the game plan this standpoint, again, I think our front four can be great this week, especially if you get that the rotation back with Tierre Tart and Murchison and the guys Naquan, guys has been hurt. If you can get them back this week and keep fresh legs in there, I think what we got to see is something that we didn't see a lot of this year is we're going to have to see some more blitzing, some disguised blitzing from those linebackers. We're not a big team that blitzes our linebackers a lot. When you sit back and think of some of the blitz we run, we try to run these these zone coverages with the corner or the safeties coming down late. So I would disguise some of those with the linebackers because again, Joe Burrow can escape, but let's not forget he's coming off of ACL, so he still kind of favors that. If you've watched him this year, he's still just a little timid with his escapability from that standpoint. And I think the best way to do that is you shore up the outside with Bud and Landry and bring some of that extra pressure up the middle, because we know Big Jeff is going to get up the middle and your boy Danico. So if you can bring one of them linebackers up there, I think we match up well that standpoint. But I do think that from a secondary standpoint, I think Elijah Molden's going to have to be big, because I think this is a game that you'll see them try, especially given the last time you see him put tape on the field, them try to attack the slot, which is something that we haven't really seen a lot of teams do this year outside of the Texans, who just had Amendola running, a clinic on route running.
Right. So I think too, if you look at it, Cruikshank's gonna be big in this game because they have Uzama, the tight end. Uzama. He's an athletic tight end, can run good routes, and I think he's gonna have a key matchup in this game as well, because if Joe doesn't have time to get to the outside, he'll look for the check downs to his tight end. And don't sleep on Joe Mixon. He had over 1,200 yards rushing. They can run the football as well, and explosive in that. And also he's had 42 receptions for 314 yards this season. And so
where we have to shore up the run game will be a team you'll see try to run outside a lot, and we don't do a good job containing for the most part on that. So this is one where our outside run game is really going to have to come to play.
Exactly. And so when we have the ball, guys, the Titans 17th overall as far as offense, one of the top 5 in rushing. And so Cincinnati's defense, 18th overall, 350 yards per game, 26 against the pass, 5th against the rush, 102 per game, and 17th in scoring. And so, fellas, they got some guys that can get after the quarterback up front. Sam Hubbard, 7.5 sacks. BJ Hill from the interior, 5.5 sacks, and Larry Ogunjobi, 7.5 sacks at D tackle, and Trey Hendrickson with 14. And so they can get after the quarterback. You saw them get after Carr last night. And so, it's going to be imperative to get that run game and that play action game going early.
Well, you just hit the nail on the head, man. You're going to have, in order to keep those sacks from happening, you're going to have to use the play action, which we unfortunately know that's not one of Todd Downing's staples. So that's gonna be an issue if he doesn't use that. We don't, and I'm gonna be honest with him, I'm a little concerned about the running game, and the reason being is that we just don't know how the offense is going to react to the King being back as far as running the ball is concerned. We don't know how he's going to run. We don't know if he's going to be a little bit tentative. You don't know Foreman, what he's going to be able to do, Hilliard. So it's going to be interesting to see how the offense does. Julio Jones is back, supposedly fully healthy. A.J. Brown, you got Westbrook and Kennedy. So the passing game, the question is going to be, can the offensive line hold up to give Tannehill time? And will he release the ball? Because as we've seen here in the past few games in the playoffs, one of the biggest issues you run into are quarterbacks holding the ball way too long. And that's going to be the issue with Tannehill. He's got to be able to get that ball out and be accurate with it, because there's been a lot of inaccurate throws today. So it's amazing to me how this is working out. So I'm interested to see how that's going to happen. But offensively, I think we can do well if we can run the ball well. And hopefully the King comes back and gets his juices flowing and gets some good runs. And I think if he does that, as we've seen in the past, if he's running the ball well and the running game is functioning well, then we should be able to function well as an offense.
And J. Lou, what I hope that Downing doesn't do is, so we know the King will start. If he's ready to go, he's going to start the game. I just don't want them to come out, run, pass, and him fall in love with getting Derrick Henry that rock. The first 2 or 3 possessions of the game, 10 times straight. And so, J. Lo, he's got to be able to mix it up, man. He's got to.
If the first play of the game isn't 11 personnel with 2 wide receivers, 2 tights, and the Henry in the backfield, play action, take a shot, then we need to tell Downey to come on off the sideline and go home right then and there. The first play of the game for offense, we all know Derrick Henry's coming back. Everybody in America knows he's coming back. You will see the Bengals have 9 in the box. That is your chance to take a shot and throw it up to either Julio or A.J. Brown, right, and let them know that you're here to try to pass the ball. Because you're right. I mean, that's our fear is he's going to have Derrick Henry back there. We'll do 2 yards. Next thing we know, we're 3rd and 7, and we throw the ball 5 yards. And right, we don't need to do that, especially with a team as explosive as them. Because you got to think, Cincinnati's going to be one of those teams kind of similar to the Chiefs, where, they can be quick scoring, and your best way to counterattack that is have ball control and possession. And we can possess the ball without having to run it on 1st and 2nd and being so predictable. So I think play action has to be the first call coming out of the game. I agree with you, G. Witt. It's they can only thud him up so much in practice. But yeah, and Derrick Henry's a pro's pro. But you wonder, it's been, October since he's been really hit. How does he react to those first couple of hits? And then to your point with, we'd like to see, playoff football is a whole lot different than regular season. So, we saw the backup running backs have some fumbling issues in the beginning of when they started, and they mellowed that out. Does that rear its head? So, you just got to have these guys ready to go and firing on all cylinders. Because again, you don't want to give this young team any hope. Again, Cincinnati did what they were supposed to do yesterday, played very well off the offense and defensive side of the ball at home. And if you could just feed off that energy, you heard a lot of players this whole weekend, because again, nobody really had fans for the most part last year.
Right.
You heard a lot of teams. I think you pointed out yesterday, G. Witt, if the Niners blow this game, the home team is 5-0 so far in the playoffs, because every home team, if I'm not mistaken, has won. And I think a lot of that has to be said to just having the crowds there. So we've definitely got to take advantage of that. Again, if you can come out play action, hit a big deep pass, Nissan Stadium will probably start shaking. And that's what you want, because that can get the Bengals out of there quickly. But yeah, I agree with you. This is where you hope that this last week, and I know we've been saying it, but you hope this last week that Todd Downing's really been studying. Let's not forget, there's a nasty taste in the Titans' mouth.
That's right, from last year.
The Bengals put it on them last year. Yep. Smacked them around when Joe Burrow was a rookie. So, that's I'm pretty certain that's Vrabel's motivation this week somehow. So you expect that, we've cooked up something with this. We finally get a chance, gentlemen, to see what this preseason offense is about. because you got everybody healthy.
Everybody's healthy.
They haven't been healthy since August, and we really didn't get to see it. So let's see if we can see him open up the playbook this coming up weekend.
Yeah, you would hope so, and I agree, man. It's going to be very interesting to see that since they got everything hitting on all cylinders as far as health wise on offense, that we'll finally see if he can put something together, game plan wise, to strategically get these guys open and have big explosive plays. And we'll get some comments in, fellas, real quick, and we'll keep going. Will says he knows it's any given Sunday, but the Steelers aren't going to beat KC, so strap up for Burrow. Yeah, we'll see, man. I'm not disagreeing with you. KC should win the game, but just don't sleep on Pittsburgh just yet, because when you got somebody that don't have anything to lose like they do, man, they're a dangerous football team. Taylor says Bengals have issues on pass rush. Let's see what else. Gino says once we get a team one-dimensional, we're gonna dominate, tighten up. Appreciate that, fellas. And then, containing the outside, Taylor mentioned that we brought that up. And then two keys to win is to be defense and the crowd noise. And so to that point, Jay,
Ed, I saw one, and I'm sorry, I mean to cut you off. I seen one in there from Taylor that we was talking about yesterday in the text thread, and he put in there about passing to the middle of the field works against the Bengals. This might be Ferk's breakout game, because the Bengals do not believe in guarding the tight end across the middle. And I told y'all last night when I texted you, I didn't agree with the Raiders' last call. I would have went to Waller at all costs because he was eating them up. So that could be the unsung, as he put it in a good comment, Taylor, that could be the unsung hero of this offense, is if we finally utilize the tight ends down the middle of the field, because I think the Bengals look like the old Titans trying to check tight ends over the last couple of weeks.
Right. And you saw that. You saw who's been eating the last few weeks is Ferk. Right. Yeah. So Ferk's been eating last few weeks. And we can continue to build on that, especially with AJ and Julio out there and doing their thing. And so I totally agree with you, utilizing him and Westbrook Akini across the middle of the field. I think we got something there, man. I like I said, I totally agree with you. And by the way, if you punch Cincinnati early on in the mouth, they got a young football team, no playoff. Well, they got one playoff experience game now, but they hadn't been in the trenches. They hadn't been in there fighting, and to realize, this thing is bigger than what they've imagined. And so if you come out, punch them in the mouth early, they might tend to tuck that tail and hide for a little bit.
Right. Well, here's the thing about it, though, man. Here's the thing about it, and again, this is the one thing that I try to always remember is that, the one advantage that Cincinnati may have on us is the fact that they've already had their first playoff game. So the nerves are gone. Mm-hmm. We haven't had ours yet. Now, granted, we have a history over the past couple of years of coming off of bye weeks and playing well. So it's going to be interesting to see if that trend continues. But it's going to be a lot of work, man, because these playoffs, man, have been crazy. They have been completely crazy. Nobody expected Buffalo to just completely blow out New England and score on every drive that they had.
Somebody forgot to show up yesterday.
Yes. Oh, he didn't fumble. Get the ball out of the house.
Hey, man, Titan Show here. Titan Show. So common opponents, they beat Pittsburgh twice. They lost to the Jets. And so, they lost to San Francisco. So, there's some common themes there, but like I said, you never know. The matchups are different week to week, and it's the playoffs, man. And so it's going to be very interesting. So let's take a look at Pittsburgh, because we got to do our due diligence, because you cannot, like I said, you cannot give them you got to give them a chance, because you got to line up in place of 50. Pittsburgh led the league in sacks with 55. Watt, tied the league record with 22 and a half. Defense overall is 24th, 9th against the pass, and 32nd against the run. Now, one thing we do know is they have a hard time stopping a run, which we saw that the last time we played them and everybody else that's played them. And so, J. Lou, man, if we don't come out and smash that rock down their throat, if they happen to come here, there's a problem with our offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think all you have to do is go back and look at the tape, and that game was 13-3 in the third quarter, and we ended up turning the ball over, 4 times straight. If we don't turn the ball over, that's a beatdown. Pittsburgh's defense, you're right. I mean, they pass rush is still vaunted. Everybody said that TJ Watt was a product of Bud, and you saw TJ is still he's his own man. He's a grown man, probably defensive player of the year. So they can it's weird to hear this about these Pittsburgh defenses, because Tomlin, since he's been there, they hang their head on defense. You've never been able to run on them, and we were gashing them in that game. So that definitely would be one that, we definitely would have to come out and run the ball. I think we match up well against them on that and setting up play action. I think our offensive line just needs to hold up from them blitzes. That's one thing that the Steelers still do. Is a lot of the disguised blitzing. That's from the Dick LeBeau days. So, holding up with that and pressure. But I mean, that's one of those games, man, that was similar to, the Houston Texans game where, for round one, we turned it over 5 times and let Houston hang around. And in the Pittsburgh game a few weeks ago, we gave them the game. So again, I think that's the one thing you'd have to preach about that. Let's just protect the ball, because we've been there, done that, right? I mean, we know we know that we ran on them without the king. So just imagine if we got the king in there, he's definitely eating. So, but again, never say never. Like you said, they can. Tomlin has always been my favorite coach of the league. Will always be my favorite coach. So, like you said tonight, he might have something. They just got waxed the last time Kansas City played them. Don't be surprised if it's closer tonight, especially if his defense. Pittsburgh is the type of team that they know they shouldn't be in the playoffs. They know they're horrible, but if you let them hang around, what happens when you let bad teams hang around?
They get confident. They can play with you, right?
Already said
it. One thing too that I don't know if y'all been paying attention to it. Tomlinson has been calling the defense here the last few weeks. Not really sure why, but he's been taking on the defensive control, and so again, they're gonna be ready to play. And if you look at the last time we played them, they just got smashed, right? So they only had 168 yards of total offense, 133 of that passing. And so, and like it was one play, it picked up a lot of yards. It was a jet sweep to Deontay Johnson. And so, it's the playoffs, it's football, it's NFL, and you have to line up and play. Deion says, speaking on behalf of the Titans, he said, this is not the same team the Bengals played last year. We got a real pass rush and a competent front seven this year. And I agree with you, man.
100% agree.
Their offensive line is suspect. Joe Burrow, they talked about it last night, him taking too many hits this year, especially coming off of ACL reconstruction surgery. You saw when they played Kansas City a couple weeks ago, he took another shot. He went down and it was kind of limped off the field with that one. And so there's opportunity there to do some damage up front. If they continue that pass rush. I think Big Jeffrey's going to be jacked up, ready to go. Bud's going to be jacked up, ready to go. Yes. Harold Landry as well. And so, and Big Danico, the MVP of the defense, in my opinion. And so,
and the thing to remember is, and this is the one good thing about the bye week, which is why it was so important. You saw how really, when you look at it, Big Jeff was kind of like having some struggles, but yes, you see him now, he gets to rest, gets his body right. And he's looking at it like, we got 3 games to win. So, you go all out, you play, and you do what you got to do.
Right. And so, Will says, who would you rather see, Pitt or Cincinnati? It doesn't really matter, man. To me, it doesn't matter, because we're going to smack both of them in the mouth. That's my opinion. Yeah. So it doesn't matter. Whoever it is, and we just got to be ready to play. Yeah, I mean, coming out the gate off of bye week. Like you said, Vrabel has a track record of having this team ready to play after bye weeks. I think he's undefeated after bye weeks, and so it's going to be imperative for us to get started fast and get going. Eddie Gray says Cincinnati isn't as physical it's physical either at the point of attack, and I agree, man. You see the teams that are physical at the point of attack. You see what San Francisco doing against the Cowboys, those teams that are able to run the football and dominate the line of scrimmage. It makes it tough. It makes it tough on teams that are not used to seeing that type of football being played. And so this team is built to play this time of year, as y'all know it. And it's going to be a good football game, whoever comes here. And we just got to be ready to play. We got to be ready to play. Thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie on there, G Witt, J Lou, fellas.
Yes, sir. Tighten up.
Look, J Lou, I'm gonna tell you that I know you know this. G Witt don't like doing predictions, but let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it. Of course, Titans win, but give me a score, give me something. What say you?
So I think if it's Cincinnati, I think you're looking at a 31-20 game. I think we can actually. I think last week and the week before last, we put up 34 and was it 27, 28 and some change, 28 last week. I think you're finally starting to see the Tannehill that we all know. I mean, everybody was, Tannehill had a down year. Well, Tannehill played 10 games with, his 4th and 5th receivers when we started the season. So that does something to it. So I think as you've seen his confidence go get better with his receiving core getting healthier, it only gets even better with Derrick Henry getting in there. I just think that this team they have too much going to come out and lay an egg. Now the one thing I'm gonna caution myself on, and this is where it can get out of hand. We are notorious for forgetting that the first quarter starts the football game.
I know it, man.
So if we can come out, I'm hoping we win the toss and defer, so you can put defense out there first. But we can come out first and have a good rhythm and go down. I mean, I think I look at, you talked about it earlier about the New England game last night. That's what the Bills did. They came out, what were they, 7 for 7 on scoring drives?
Man.
And I mean, they came out and went. So I think that's what you have to see. And our offense, we know, is capable of doing that. It's capable of doing that while also milking the clock, if that makes sense. So that's what we have to do when you're playing this explosive team. But I think you're looking at a 31-20 type game. I think Cincy hangs around, but I think in the end, the physicality in the trenches, the front seven on the defense, and that nasty O-line is starting to really gel. I think you see it take its toll on them.
G? Okay, all I'm going to say is this, because I'm not doing it. All I want to see is really the defense is going to come and play well, and the offense is going to have to be efficient. I think if we play our game, I think we're going to be able to hang with anybody and play them tough. But I think that's going to be the key for us. It's just defensively, we're going to play one of our better games, I think. And offensively, we're just going to be completely efficient, because if we are not efficient on the offense, if Todd Downing is calling the games like he did earlier in the year and midway through the year, then we're going to really struggle. We're going to really struggle. So yeah. I'm just saying right now, we have got to play outstanding on defense and be efficient on offense and score when we have a chance.
Yes. Dion says, why would you even ask Titan fans about what happens when bad teams hang around? Because it happens. You know what happens.
Right.
You know what happens a lot with this football team. So we are hoping to see a new thought process going forward this year with this team in the playoffs, man. Take it when you got your foot on their throat, man. Continue to step on them and keep moving that ball. Let's see.
That's why I say, Ed, I think the best. Vrabel is a phenomenal coach. We've said that. His worst thing was him trying to be coordinator. I think the best thing that could happen for this Titans team was that they only won 28-25 last week. Because if you just look at the second half, they got beat by the Texans. Right. So I think that, and what we've seen, just hearing the players and just their level of focus this year, we all know that was the motivational tool this last week in the classroom. And again, it doesn't matter which team we play, either if it's Cincy or Pittsburgh, they both beat us the last time Vrabel coached against them. So, I mean, you have it all right there that we're beatable. So I think he motivates them and gets them up to where, we might see the changing of the guard for what we always, every time you hear around, I mean, all you heard on the news shows last week was the last few times the Titans had the number 1 seed, they got put out by the Ravens ain't in there. So that's all you kept hearing. And, Vrabel came out nobody on this Titan team was here in 2008 for the most part. So that's right. I think, the changing of the guard that way, to Dion's point, will probably help bring us around this time in the playoffs.
Let's see. Get some more comments in, guys. Eddie Gray says the only teams that have beaten us in the playoff history have matched our physicality.
Yes.
Virgil said we should be able to run on Cincinnati. I agree with you. Will says, and the Bills didn't let up either. You're right. They didn't. They kept the pedal to the metal the whole game. And Dion brings up a great point, and I think it's so true. He says, he mentioned it earlier, he thinks we can use Blasingame more to lead block and the power set. Now, I think that's how they should run the ball, start running the ball with Derrick Henry. Yes. I think you put Blasingame in there, you give him an extra blocker, right? And so the linebackers can't tee off on him immediately. They got to take on Blasingame. And I think you give him a little time to get in the flow of the game. Yeah. And then maybe now you start coming out in 3 wides, and doing some different things. But first play of the game, 11 personnel play action. I agree with you, Jay. I agree with you, man. I agree. Blasingame in an out formation, play action. A.J. Brown on the glance play.
Yes,
for 25 yards. That's what I'm saying.
It's there. The way watching the Bengals linebackers play action
cover
around,
nobody. Yeah,
it's going to be open the entire time on the middle of the field.
Right. So Virgil says, watch out for Monty Hook to this game. I agree with you, Virgil. And so you think about this, guys. You go back a couple years ago when the Titans had the little run in the playoffs and they went to the Ravens, and the safeties really played well in that game. Cruikshank had a game defining moment in that football game. Logan Ryan played well in the slide. So I think you see some of that as well against a passing team like Cincinnati. Even if Pittsburgh happens by chance to get back by KC, I think you see that same type of thing that we could shut them down. You know, Najee Harris, he had over 1,200 yards rushing. And then, Deontay Johnson have 1,100 yards receiving, and Claypool almost had another 1,000 yards. And so, I just think when we play our game, to your point, G, I think we can beat anybody. We showed it. If we don't turn the ball over, there's nobody in the NFL that can match up with us. I mean, that's just how I feel, especially with the King coming back. Margarita, hey, how you doing? We appreciate you joining the show tonight. And then Eddie Gray said, I like to set with Big Jeff in that too. He likes Big Jeff on offense.
Yeah, as long as Big Jeff, as long as he
reports in,
I like that set too.
Right. And I hope he don't fall in love with that toss sweep, Dion. Dion said, please tell Down to take that toss sweep out of the playbook. So.
My conspiracy theory on the toss sweep is maybe he called it so much last week because Derrick Henry hates it, and he just wanted to get them all out of the playbook before he came back. Because that was by far the most toss sweeps we've called all year long.
He called 3 or 4 in a row, didn't he?
Yes.
Stop running that play. But again, thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie on LG with J. Lou. Hey, man, divisional playoff game. We're finna get off the show because these guys are caught up on the game on TV and forgetting about we are live on the show. So anyway, we'll see y'all next weekend, man. We'll see who matchup is. After tonight, we'll see Kansas City and Pittsburgh, but more than likely it'll be Cincinnati. But we'll see. We'll see. Anything happens in the NFL.
Hey, man, look, anything can happen. Anything can happen. But again, I haven't been the one who witnessed those last 2 times we were number 1 seed. The first one, I always blamed on Jeff Fisher because he wasn't aggressive with his play calling, especially when you got 4th and 1.5 yards and you're down on their end of the field and your defense is shutting them down. And you got Eddie George, Lorenzo Neal, Bruce Matthews playing center, Steve McNair playing quarterback. You got 1,000 pounds of man in the middle of the field and you don't run the ball. To me, that was the play really to set the Titans back as far as championship football was concerned. The second one, I thought we were playing well up until Chris Johnson got hurt, and you just saw turnovers kill us in that game. They just could not hold on to the ball for whatever reason. So again, nobody on this team right now was part of that staff at all at either one. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. It's a whole new regime. So hopefully with the number 1 seed, we get the win, get ready for an AFC championship game here in Nashville, and we can go out and take care of business and do what we need to do. But again, you know me, Eddie, you know me, Jabbar, I'm not making predictions.
Oh, yeah.
31-17 Titans. There's my score. So appreciate y'all joining us tonight. Join us next week. We'll be back on, man. We'll be talking about the divisional matchup and the win and going on to the AFC championship game. Eddie Arnell G with Jay Louie. Out of here, man. Peace.